You know, folks, if you follow my channel for any amount of time, you will know that I always make comparisons between Donald Trump and the WWE because I really feel like the way that Trump goes about working the crowd and working MAGA is a whole lot like an old wrestling villain would have did back in the day. But as much as I draw those comparisons, the irony is when I'm not sitting here talking to you about politics and the world burning down, I'm watching pro wrestling because I've been a hardcore fan of it my entire life. I grew up watching it back in the 80s, and then I watched it all the way through the Attitude Era. And then when I had kids of my own, they loved it. My two youngest sons, anyway, they love it. And so we follow the current product today because they don't want to turn it off. So when I'm not talking about politics and the world going crazy, I'm decompressing. And a lot of times it's watching pro wrestling, the old matches on the network, or I will listen to podcasts from wrestlers and managers and guys that used to be in the business, announcers, people like that. I'll go back and listen to their podcasts, and that's a way to decompress. So I listen to a whole lot of wrestling podcasts, and one of my favorites, probably my favorite of all time, is Jim Cornette. He's my favorite podcaster in the wrestling world. I love Jim Ross's podcast. I really like Mick Foley's. I hated to see it go away. I like Jake the Snakes as long as Jake's the only one talking on it. But also one that I really didn't think I would like at first, but really grew fond of, and now watch it almost every day is Click This by Kevin Nash. And the reason why I say I was surprised that I would like it is because, again, I grew up watching the old NWA. In the 80s, I was a huge fan of Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen. And so when Kevin Nash and the NWO came along to WCW and decided they was just going to take over everything and they spray painted the big gold belt, I was like, no, you can't do that. So when Kevin Nash first came out with the podcast, I was like, okay, I'll give it a listen, see what it's about. And then the more I heard him talk about wrestling, I was like, you know what, man, this dude would get along because he was a really smart, intelligent dude. And I realized just how smart he was and how good he was at getting those storylines over. And I started listening pretty much every episode. And I noticed if he got into politics at all or dabbled in it, dipped his toes in it at all of a sudden I begin to go, dang, man, this guy would agree on politics too. So, maybe not every single issue, but what I heard, I was like, I wouldn't have really expected a guy playing like one of the members of the NWO to have thoughts the way that he does. And recently he ruffled a lot of feathers, got a lot of people upset because he spoke out on the 4th of July. And a lot of people would say that he went political right here. And folks, honestly, I don't think what I'm about to read to you is really that big of a political stance. I just think it's that some of us have a different definition of morality and we're tired of being quiet about it. And we just have to speak up and say something about it. And that's what I feel that Kevin Nash was doing here on these tweets. So I'm going to bring him up here. And again, thank y'all so much for supporting what I do here on the channel. I truly do appreciate it. We're headed toward 1 million subscribers. I do hope we get there. And if Kevin Nash ever sees this video, just thank you, sir, for a lifetime of entertainment. I truly do appreciate it. And I think it's bullshit that people are mad over these tweets that he made. So here was one of the first. He put this out on the 4th of July. Happy 4 more trillion in debt day. Never felt this proud as we continue to destroy the empathy we once held for those less fortunate. So I guess healthy, wealthy, white 1% day. Enjoy your small regional hospitals while you can. Things just continue to get greater. Happy 4th. Now, that ruffled a whole lot of feathers, got a lot of people upset, and I'm sure he started having to delete and block a whole lot of people because then he posted this. Was enjoyable to flush the white trash out today. I know that feeling. To block and remove them, at least on this site. I didn't celebrate the 4th this year because I personally feel we're not the home of the free. We lose constitutional rights daily. If you're a bigot, please unfollow me. Peace out. And then he posted this one, and I'll read this one and we'll talk more about it. He posted this one. To those that don't have the ability to determine the First Amendment on separation of church and state, and he put this. This clause prevents the government from establishing an official religion or endorsing one religion over others. This clause protects individuals' right to practice their religion without government interference, as long as it doesn't conflict with public morals or a compelling governmental interest. Thomas Jefferson famously described the relationship between the church and state as a wall of separation. So that is what has definitely got Kevin Nash in a lot of hot water with wrestling fans. They feel as though he suddenly went political. And I would say, no, I don't really view those stances as political. It's just that some of us are tired of what we're seeing and we can no longer stay quiet about it. And it is hard to feel patriotic. And I talked about in videos how that I was having a really hard time celebrating. I really didn't feel like I was celebrating anything. What I said here on the channel, and I talked about this over on Patreon, I talked about how that I just decided to go ahead and plow through the grilling out and the cooking out and the fireworks with the kids, because my two youngest sons are 13 and 7, and just wanted them to have their childhood. But I was totally feeling Kevin Nash's sentiment. When you see something like the big, beautiful bullshit bill passed, and you see Republicans clapping to that, and you see them groping each other and grabbing each other's ass while they're voting for it, Tim Burchett, and you see Mike Johnson hand Trump his gavel and just applaud, in just pure glee, and you see the pain and the suffering that it's going to cause other people, it's just hard to sit back and be quiet. And I've listened to Kevin Nash on Click This enough, and I can't speak for him, and I'm not here to speak for him, but I've listened to him enough to know that he does not give a fuck what someone thinks about something he's going to say, whether it be his thoughts on an old wrestling angle or his thoughts on a new angle out there today, or his thoughts on these things. If people tunes out, I don't think he's going to lose a night's sleep over it. He's been through a whole lot, and I've followed him for a long time, and I know he's been through a whole lot. And that man has every right to speak his mind and say whatever the hell he wants to. And if someone doesn't like it, they have every right to tune out. But I totally agree with him and feel the sentiment of, I didn't feel like celebrating either. I don't see what there is to celebrate with this many people who are going to suffer. And we just want to live in a country where people actually have empathy again. It makes me feel better to know that Kevin Nash was playing the dude that was out to take over and just rule the WCW. He was playing that as a character in a storyline. And again, like I've said so many times on the channel, I love that form of entertainment as a storyline. I don't want Hollywood Hogan as my president. I don't want the NWO as his cabinet. And I'm sure Kevin Nash would agree with that. It's like he wouldn't want that either. It's ridiculous that this is where we're at. And we're just people that are sick and tired of seeing these things and hearing these things happen every day and realizing how many people it's going to affect. I mean, Kevin Nash made a fortune in wrestling. He was one of the top draws, one of the biggest names for years, rightfully so. He could easily just, stay there and stay quiet and not offend anybody. But I'm sure it just was like, I feel like I want to say this. And then if people's going to sit and cast stones, then they truly don't appreciate this Constitution that I keep a copy of laying on my desk, because he has a First Amendment right to say whatever he wants to. And I think we've lost sight of that. MAGA especially has lost sight of that. They think that when they talk about the Constitution, that it's only if they can use it to weaponize it against someone whose lifestyle they disagree with. They think the only time they can use the Bible is if they're using it to cherry pick an Old Testament verse out to go against somebody they disagree with. And then the minute someone speaks out and says something about them or speaks against what they see their country doing, then suddenly, oh, you all hate America. You guys are, unpatriotic. You don't love America. You should just stay quiet. You should just take your ass to work, and all the blah, blah, blah bullshit that they sit and spew. But I've said many times before here on the channel, politics does make for strange bedfellows. Sometimes you end up on a side with somebody that you didn't think you would end up on the same side with. I even saw Jim Cornette. I probably couldn't find it back, but Cornette and Kevin Nash have definitely had words before in the past. I've heard them talk about each other on their podcasts. I think they both, though, at the end of the day, have respect for one another. But, on the screen, they definitely had their moments. But even Cornette, we retweeted Nash's post and was like, well, me and this guy, probably don't agree on much, but we agree on this. And again, I don't think it's even the politics, because those two guys, I'm sure, disagrees about a whole lot of things, but we agree that this whole MAGA bullshit has just gotten so out of hand, and the empathy that's gone out of this world, and people cheering on as people suffer, it's not something any of us wants to see. So, I'm going to continue to watch Click This. I'm going to continue to be pulling for Kevin Nash. And, if he says something I disagree with, and he said plenty I disagreed with about wrestling. He's said other things I disagree with in general. But he has a First Amendment right to do so. And I have a First Amendment right to say that. And I'm sure that we would be fine. We would get along. It's just, that's how it should have been all along. But MAGA has hijacked so much of this. They've hijacked it to where people like me and Kevin Nash didn't feel like celebrating that day. And sometimes it feels hard to even want to fly the flag. But the reason why that I put the flag behind me, I've said before here on the channel, is because I just wasn't going to let them take it from me, because they've bastardized it, folks. They've turned it into something that it was never meant to be. I'm not saying that that flag was ever perfect, because, like George Carlin said, we were founded by slave owners who wanted to be free. So, we were flawed from the start. But I'm not going to let the MAGAs of the world take that flag hanging behind me that my grandfather and my uncles fought for, and so many people fought for, to keep freedom and democracy on the table. I'm not going to let them take that from me. And all I would say to Kevin Nash is, I truly, truly understand how you were feeling that day. I felt the same way when I lit up the grill. I felt the same way as I was lighting off the fireworks. I was completely feeling the same way. But I would say this: we can't let these hateful people take this country away from people that does have empathy and does have common sense. So I applaud Kevin Nash, and I appreciate him speaking out. And yeah, I may not have been. I may have been. Well, I actually did root for Kevin Nash over Bill Goldberg. I was really glad he ended that streak. But what I started to say was, I may have been pulling for the Four Horsemen at Fall Brawl, but I'm pulling for Kevin Nash now, and anyone who will stand up against this tyrant and just stand up for basic human decency. Is that really too much to ask?